Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about essentially more DC movie news, but apparently fans are getting more and more upset with James Gunn over some of his interview responses about how Creature Commandos, how Waller, and how Peacemaker are fitting into the DCU, and then how Alan Tudyk is now also doing more than one voice in the DCU, and people are upset about that. We're going to be talking about the news of the Superman trailer that's coming in December, the new Clayface rumor about the new Solo film, Sgt Rock getting his own film, the Creature Commandos' early internet reactions to the press and social media influencers who got to see the entire series early. We're going to talk about a whole lot more. So sit tight, enjoy, and we're going to talk a lot of DC this week. And here we are.
How your Wonder Picks going? You've been getting good stuff?
I legitimately have. I did bite the bullet a little bit and spent like $25 on the game and got like one of those mega pull things.
Sure.
I have now pretty much every card with the exception of like 3.
Yeah.
But except for all the full art fancy shit ones, like the actual counted cards, I'm like 223 of 226. Like I'm missing the EX Arcanine, I'm missing the EX Starmie, and I think the EX Gyarados. But I have the full art EX Gyarados, but not the normal one. But apparently if I get those last 3 and I get 226 of 226, I get like a special emblem set. And I'm like, I need that set. I don't know why, but I need it.
I'm 6 cards behind you.
Okay.
I have not gotten any Blastoises. I'm missing Aerodactyl, Kangaskhan, Nidoqueen, some other like of the random 151 I'm missing, and then some random ones. But I still need a second Mewtwo so I could be a degenerate gamer and play Mewtwo.
I got that. I kept drawing Mewtwo's on my first handful of, like, when you were doing the tutorial mode in the beginning of the game where it's like it basically gives you like 10 or 15 packs for free while you're doing all the random things. I just kept getting Mewtwo's and I'm like, this is the best day ever. And I was like so excited because the Mewtwo EX is OP and the normal Mewtwo is dog shit. So I have a full deck of like, I have the 4 EX Mewtwo's and I have the Gardevoir and all that. And as soon as I put down the routes and then the Mewtwo, people just like forfeit the match. They're like, nope, you're one of those people. And I get a lot of wins because people just know what is happening.
The mini set is coming. I like how impactful that it's such a small card to pull that like the promo Mankey that does damage to himself makes the Primate deck work.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Because we used to play the Pokemon card game back when we were youths, and when they did the Pokemon gym thing, and I still have one of the gym badges from that day when it was like the little silver, like the little rectangle one that has the gym picture on it, says official league. Yeah. I still have one of those badges that we got. But yeah, so if you like legitimately, I'm going to drop apparently my camera's brightness is stupid. I have everything minus the Arcanine. Oh, the EX Moltres. That was the other one I had. I got the Gyarados finally. And the Starmie. So the EX Moltres, the EX Arcanine, and the Starmie are the only 3 that I am missing. And I got a butt ton of those full arts that are just absolutely gorgeous. And then I drew, stupidly enough, I drew 2 of the full art super rare Brock. And I'm like, I don't want Brock. Give me one of the other things I don't have. So I'm just
listen, I was gonna say
the game right now because
that's just what it is when it comes to these things. You know what I mean? You get what you get. It's listen, there are lots of sparkly things. Good job.
Well, funny thing is, so on my iPad, I started a new game. So when the trading happens, I can trade things. And I just started doing all the free stuff. And I drew all 3 of the cards that I'm missing in my first tutorial polls. And I'm like, why on earth are my rates on my iPad better than on my phone? And I was getting so mad.
I haven't made a B account yet, but there's such little content in the game that you can get caught up very quickly. Maybe it's time for me to do that.
Did you? So I know that we're wasting people's time, but we're talking about Pokemon right now. We're in our zone. Did you see that there's going to be some super funky McDonald's promotion crossover in like December, January?
No, No, I did not hear
So
about
it
that.
leaked online,
That's some real breaking news, everybody, because I
it
know
leaked
about the
online,
event.
and the card is literally a special Pokemon card of a Big Mac, and it has like an attack and everything, and it's like it says Big Mac, and it's like a basic card, and I was like, this is the funniest fucking card
And
I've
do I
ever seen.
scan it and put it in my phone?
I think you're probably going to get like a code when you go to McDonald's and get a code for the card or something like that. But I was laughing so hard when I saw this Big Mac card.
All the cards give you EXP. So yes, I will go buy a Big Mac. It'll probably be the first time I've been to McDonald's in over a year.
Let me find it because here. Yep. So McDonald's Big Mac illustration rare sparks crossover rumors and controversy among fans. I love the internet and some of this clickbait culture.
Does it have the picture of the? Does it have the Big Mac card?
Yep, I found it. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to put it on there. It was a French website accidentally leaked it.
Does the Big Mac have claws?
I fucking love it.
Does it have crazy teeth?
2 seconds. Let me just show you the thing. Let me show you the thing because it is the funniest damn picture. Straight up Big Mac. It's 120 HP. It's got 2 attacks. The secret sauce attack is 30 damage, and the double steak or the double patty attack is 100. I'm like, that is a funny ass card.
That's not garbage.
It's actually a pretty good card.
It can do something. That's something.
So this came out, a French outlet somehow accidentally leaked the promotion early and then quickly deleted itself. And then the internet got it and they're like, is this happening? And then everyone was mad. But now it sounds like it might be a secret rare with a special promo run. Because they noted it was card 45 of 280. So they're probably going to start numbering the promos.
Okay.
And yeah, I was like, this is the funniest damn card.
Listen, that's the best. That's the best art of a Big Mac I've ever seen. I'm up for alternative art. I can't believe how wonderful and addicting it is doing all of these things. As I'm waiting for the timers on my Pokemon Pocket to go, that means I get to go over to Instagram where I get to read something that James Gunn wrote that people are upset about.
Yes.
Which one of these are we starting with? Because he's been responding to people, I guess.
Yeah, has been responding to people. So some of the more interesting responses, some of the good ones. Earlier yesterday, I think, he responded to someone on Threads and they said, are you planning on showing any of Batman or Superman's origins in the DCU? And he was just like, no, because we've seen them so often.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not going to retread over familiar territory. If an origin story has been told and it's iconic enough, you don't need to tell it again.
Sure.
Which is why we're seeing Superman Legacy, aka Superman 2025, coming into a year 3 movie where he's been Superman for a few years. You're going to see some familiar things, but you're not going to see the Kent Farm stuff. You're not going to see any of that stuff. It's just going to be.
I mean, look at what Marvel did Look what Marvel did with Wolverine.
Yeah.
You get it? He's Wolverine. Here's all these movies examples if you'd like to know who Wolverine is. But guess what? It's that character, and this is what he does.
Exactly. So they're going to avoid treading over that same territory, which is why when The Brave and the Bold comes out, Batman's going to be fully established, and then we're going to be introducing and doing origins for the Bat family, the newer characters that are being introduced for their need. So that makes sense. One thing that really pissed off a lot of people was that when Creature Commandos, certain people have been given full access to the show, and they've been able to watch it, review it. The embargo lifts on December 3rd. So the day the show comes out, the embargo lifts on people's reviews.
Love that. It means that they like the show, and it means that the show is telling one story, which means you can't pick and choose episodes in its entirety. Here is the product, which means it's what? 3 hours, 3.5 hours. That's how they look at it.
It's like 8 episodes. Okay. It's like 3.5, 4 hours of content based on like 25-minute episodes. So you can watch it in one hit if you wanted to be that person. And I do like being that person. That's my main thing that I like to do. So a buddy of mine has had access to all of this. He has not broken his NDA, I'll say that, and has shown me proof that he's been watching these things, but he's shown it in a way that he can't put it on social media. He can't prove it.
Sure.
He started talking about some of his early impressions because that's what they're allowed to say. Is like, do I like the show? Do I don't like the show? Loves the show. Thinks it's amazing. Basically said that it's very similar to the vein of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and it is irreverent. It is hilarious. It is, he said it's just absolutely a lot of fun. And then he put all this out, and then lo and behold, the Snyder fans, aka what he refers to as the Snyder cult, started attacking him, saying that, oh, you're full of shit. It's not out yet. You can't have watched it, all that stuff. And he was like, they're basically baiting him into breaking his NDA to prove that he's seen it.
Sure.
It's actually pretty stupid that this keeps happening, because all it does is now makes the Snyder fan base look like a cult of malcontents. And
at this point in 2024, and also because unfortunately those Netflix movies were not the best.
Yeah,
so it seems like it's
Zack Snyder. Rebel Moon is not getting any continuation. Zack Snyder is now officially moving forward with new projects with Netflix, and apparently his newest project is a new cop movie set in LA. And it basically, the way they described it, it sounds a lot like what David Ayer did with his End of Watch. I'm just like, well, this seems like I've seen this movie. So very interesting that they're doing that.
Wild. It's wild though that they aren't gonna, it's wild that he got to keep his job though. Like, hey, we're not going to pay for your futuristic, but it will, if you still want to do movies, if you'll do a $20 million movie, we'll do that.
Right. So that's essentially what happened. Is he's not moving forward with Rebel Moon Part 3 or whatever you want to call it, because reviews ate it to pieces. Nope, not enough people liked it, and it was universally panned and ridiculed and all that stuff. So no more Rebel Moon. So that weird cliffhanger ending where like the princess is still alive, that's not getting resolved ever. We're just going to ride to our grave knowing that the princess is alive.
I'm sure they'll do a Dark Horse Comics. I'm sure I'm sure it'll make its way out to the world someday.
Maybe, because they did do a bunch of tie-in comics that sold absolutely trash. So I don't think the publishers are going to want to put any more money into finishing that story unless like people really start showing up and like buying their copious backlog of comics that didn't sell.
Okay.
So I don't know how realistic that is for that actually happening. My hope is that they still finish the Army of the Dead universe, because I was really bummed that they quietly killed the prequel animated series, especially how far into it they got. Like they had all the voice work done, they had most of the previews done, and they were in the animation phase, and then they killed it because it was just getting too expensive. And this was also Netflix, who had just ended Arcane because it was too expensive. And Arcane has been amazing.
Did you finish part 2 of season 2 of Arcane?
I have not, but everything that I've seen of it so far has been absolutely amazing, and I am bummed out knowing that this is the end of it.
Yeah, it's a great show. I have no idea what's going on, and I'm sad that they're not going to be tying it into anything else anymore.
Yeah. I was bummed out when I heard that it was ending right there, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll watch it eventually, and I just will know that if there's any leftover threads, I'm just going to be sad about life. But I really did like the show. I thought it was a very amazingly drawn show. Like, and if that was essentially very similarly the art style that Zach was using, I'm really bummed out that we're not getting that project. But it also makes a lot of sense why it was just too damn expensive, because that style of animation was crazy pricey.
Well, maybe it doesn't work on a small screen, but like, oh boy, this would be a really great way. I mean, I'm just thinking about that Batman Beyond project that the Spider-Verse people, and they didn't want it. It's like, okay, well, maybe they didn't want to pay that price, but like plug a Batman Beyond story into that art style. I'm sad to see that's not going, but that studio's now open, and I wonder what products they're going to work on next.
Well, that studio is also having their own issues right now. Word is that according to Brandon Davis, the formerly of Comic Book Movie, the guy who was BD was fired from Comic Book and now still doing his own thing. He told the internet that Sony has told Lord and Miller of the Spider-Verse movies to basically rewrite Part 3 from scratch. So it's being delayed further. I don't know how true that is, because I hadn't heard the same. I heard that they're already still working on it and it's being finished. So it sounds, if we're hearing conflicting stories at this point, and I don't know if it's true that they're starting it from scratch or if they are actually finished with it like they should be. We'll see.
I could see them maybe having to redo, like the first act of that movie is the heroes from the first movie go back, right? Like we saw them all assemble. They're going to go fight something. Maybe they want to tie this in to their other Spider-Man. Maybe that's why they have to rewrite
I know that they've been talking about doing a live action Miles Morales. Maybe they're trying to make the Spider-Verse a bigger story and move forward that way. So it's very interesting to see that there's all these conflicting rumors about what's happening. But the thing that is happening, Craven comes out pretty soon, and the director was given carte blanche to finish it in his vision, which is a good sign. The Venom 3 came out, didn't really do well in America, but it did bangers overseas. And
they just love Venom.
I love Venom, apparently.
I guess so.
They will fork over all the money for Venom over in China and overseas. So it made its money back. It did good. The director for
that's wild. And you know what's crazy is every time these Sony movies comes out, I'm like, how are they still making these? They make a profit in Asia, so they get to keep making them.
That's how they keep making them. And you have now Tom Hardy has kind of changed his tune, saying, if they want me to come back, I'll come back. So
that's wild.
Which is pretty cool because, I mean, yes, for spoiler alert, I'll throw that up there real fast. Spoiler alert, for those who haven't seen Venom Part 3, Null basically said, I'm going to invade the multiverse. So they are setting up something involving Null going forward. The big rumor is that the King in Black is going to move forward and attack Spider-Man in the next Spider-Man film. And there's going to be more multiverse issues with the Spider-Man 4 because it's going to be Null invading the multiverse and other Spider-Man and other heroes having to help. That's that rumor. And Venom 3 ended with Venom himself dying. Gone. Kaput. Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock is now on his own, but the loose string of that story is that the piece of the Venom symbiote that existed in the MCU is still there. So Tom Hardy could essentially cross over, reattach himself, and then regrow Venom. So, and then you've also got like Carnage.
And they get to redesign the character again, right?
If they want to, And then you've also got the Carnage factor, where the director of Let There Be Carnage said that yes, the symbiote was separated and Clutus's head got bit off, but they already kind of established that the Venom symbiote does still live on a cellular level in the bodies. So Clutus's body could be buried and then just emerge one day. So there's always that more symbiotes could be happening soon. So we do have a lot of future that could be happening here that they want to do. But again, the director of Craven said that he wants people to give Craven a chance because he was allowed to make the R-rated film he was doing, and they're not going to edit it to crap like the other two films got. So,
I mean, it's a really good sign. It also could mean
it's saying the right stuff.
It also means he could be polishing a turd, and then it didn't work in PG-13, and maybe with these deaths.
My understanding was that they never aimed for PG-13, and then they were being told to dial it back to PG-13, and then he won the argument, and they said, "Okay, fine, make your movie." So
I wonder, even though tonally it's not a Deadpool, I feel like Deadpool kind of showed like, if you're going to have a character with claws and a sword, they got to use their claws and swords.
Yeah, it's like the Ninja Turtle argument, where these Ninja Turtles have dangerous ass weapons, and in every movie they're using their weapons defensively to not hurt anybody. And then the animated show got around that by making all the enemies robots, and they just started murdering people.
Right.
So the question is, are they going to go that route with some of these characters and PG up very violent weapons, or let the weapons be the weapons they are?
So all of this Sony stuff is supposed to culminate in the Sinister Six.
Yes.
Who does the Sinister Six fight? Do they fight Spider-Man? Do we see a movie where Spider-Man gets introduced in the third act to save the day?
That was actually always what they were intending, was that they were going to move forward with a Spider-Man related crossover. And then it sounds like the Disney side of Marvel was fighting on the custody of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And that was the issue, is that they have joint custody over this, and the parents can't agree on how the kid gets raised, kind of a thing.
Would they bring back Andrew Garfield?
That's actually the big rumors, that Andrew Garfield has expressed interest to come back. And because of that, people are now thinking that the new Miles Morales live action project is going to spur off of the Andrew Garfield universe. And all of these movies, since they were not explicitly stated to what universe they exist in, people are thinking that a lot of these Spider-Verse movies will then exist within the Andrew Garfield universe.
Mm.
So the only caveat is that the Madam Web movie was originally supposed to take place in a different time period, and they kind of retconned themselves, and now people don't know when that movie takes place. But
I don't think Sony knows when that movie took place.
But the movie did end in a way saying that Madam Web can peer into the multiverse, and they could just say that this is its own universe and just move on.
Yeah.
So at one point, it seemed like a lot of these universes were connected to each other, but not to anything else. Madam Web now being the outlier. The only weird continuity issue is that Kraven fights the Rhino in this movie, and the Rhino in this movie is more akin to what the director originally had planned with the
not Paul Giamatti in a robot suit.
And that was what the studio pushed for the second film. So it sounds like whatever they're doing in the Kraven movie sounds more like what Andrew Garfield's movies were supposed to be originally. So we'll see how that all plays in.
Circling back, do these Sony movies go up against these? When do these DC movies start dropping?
So now we're circling back. So DC fans were pissed at James Gunn because James Gunn had said in multiple interviews essentially that majority of Peacemaker season 1 and majority of the Suicide Squad are still canon. And he clarified saying, whatever we talk about in these new shows going forward, that is canon. So you can look back to those movies. If they make a reference, that's canon.
He wrote the shows. Why would they not be canon?
And so people are saying, well, how does that work? He said, well, the Justice League scene at the end of Peacemaker, that's not canon. So that's a big difference. And then some of the Justice League factors of the Suicide Squad that tied back to the first Suicide Squad movie, those aren't canon. So obviously, like Captain Boomerang stuff, that's not canon anymore. So maybe they're retconning Captain Boomerang, or maybe they're just going to recast him later and say this was the Boomerang that died on this movie, or things like that. Like they can change it how they want to change it. But basically, people were upset saying, "So why did your movies get to exist and everything else?" But again, I wanted to clarify that the big issue was the finances. When the decision was made to reboot, they already had a handful of active projects that were already bought and paid for and in pre-production that was already getting spent money. Writers were already being commissioned, and it would have been more expensive to kill these projects while they were being made than it would have been just to finish them. So things like The Waller Show, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2, those were already in existence prior to the Discovery buy. Because of that, and because of the financial woes of WB, it made more sense just to slowly retcon these shows and keep them going than to kill them too. The projects that existed that people are mad about, like the Flash 2 or the Flash 3 or the Supergirl project, none of those actually had gone anywhere beyond conversation phase. No scripts were approved, no pre-production was made, no writers were hired, no directors were hired. It was all in early standing. So it was really just, we had an option for your contract. We're not moving forward with that option. So that's how those ended. But because the Waller stuff was already being written and paid for, because the Creature Commandos was already being animated, because Peacemaker Season 2 already had scripts being written, it was already too far along to kill. That's why those shows are still existing. And I think people don't understand how complex production is and what it means to kill a project in that state, because it gets expensive. And it would just be easier to finish. Then it'd be cheaper and more cost effective to finish than it would be to kill it and pay these people out of their active work.
This doesn't hurt anything, does it? Or does it just mean that that like when the Superman movie starts, that there was like a weird alien invasion that happened that had to be dealt with? Like, why does that affect anything?
It doesn't really. I mean, what it basically says is that, so the end of Peacemaker with the butterfly and the monster, the big cow thing, like that, all the Justice League wasn't called because there was no Justice League. So that's the only real difference in how that movie and that show ended, was that there was no quip about Aquaman fucking fish or anything like that, because those heroes aren't a team yet. So it happened the same way. There's just no team. So there's going to be different references, but that's it going forward.
And it makes me super excited for Peacemaker Season 2 because it's canon. That means that we can have anybody else come over because their character is going to carry over to the movie. Right. So instead of it being an argument of who we allow to go over there, everyone can come over if it makes sense.
Right. And the benefit of having a uniformed canon going forward means that all of the issues they had with crossovers previously, aka Dwayne Johnson not wanting to cross over with Shazam and all that stuff, that won't exist anymore, because now it's all being talked about by one specific writer's circle that is controlling the canon. So like you said, there's not going to be any of these weird nuanced issues anymore.
I like the character of Shazam. I don't think we get Shazam for a long time just because of the weird Zachary Levi stuff and also the Rock stuff. If that's the case, do you think eventually 4 movies in we just have a new Shazam and they don't explain his origin? He's just Shazam?
Yeah, probably. They'll probably do that, and they'll probably make it more, because the problem with the Shazam movies was that they were in this weird where they exist limbo,
Right?
Because it was New Line that made them, and somehow that world was further along in its everything than it should have been.
Sure.
Like, there was a whole DC universe of merchandise and action figures, and we were supposed to believe that in the year and a half that existed after the Justice League forming, that someone had merchandised the shit out of them for a year.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna, maybe this is like it made more sense if you believe that these things were 10 years down the line than right then. And then they kind of half included Henry Cavill in the first one, and then they included Gal Gadot in the second one. So there was so many like weird continuity timeline issues that I had no idea how it worked. So maybe it's better that it's all just being wiped clean and we're ignoring it for a while. And the fact that the kids were all like full-on adults by the second film, like to me, Shazam, Billy Batson is like 9, like 8 or 9. He's not like 14 like they made in those movies. They wanted Asher to be Billy, and that was fine, but making him 14 or 15 in the first movie meant he was a full-ass adult in the second movie.
Right.
So you gotta work on some of those things.
Well, Shazam has been wiped from the slate. Also, Star Wars has been wiped from the slate. No more cinematic Star Wars movies.
No, so that rumor was kind of a weird one. We know that they are making 3 new movies from the last report of the director and the producer and the writer being hired. All they did was they took the tentative dates for the solo films that were in production. They took them off the docket because they were reworking the whole plan. So it seems like going forward, whatever Simon Kinberg is doing, that is the plan, and everything else is a secondary, and we will work on that till it works out. But this is good because those other movies were the ones that were being made by Kathleen Kennedy, and now that Dave Filoni is the chief creative officer, it sounds like he's definitely saying, no, we're not doing this again because Acolyte sucked and we're not playing your games.
I wonder, I keep wondering, do they, like, they can't retcon anything. They can't, like, change anything. Like,
well, no, I mean, so retconning.
Can Kylo Ren come back? Can Kylo Ren be? Can Ben Solo walk back onto film?
So retconning is a very interesting concept because a lot of people think retconning is essentially a do-over, right? And they're just going to explicitly say, "We're not doing this. We're just changing it," and blah blah blah. It's like when what Ryan Johnson did in episode 8. I think it was it 8? Yeah, in episode 8, when he did it and he said, I didn't like how Kylo Ren's scar was, so I moved it all around. That wasn't a retcon. That was just a blatant change. So retconning is what Dave Filoni did for years with the Clone Wars cartoon, where he added more context, he added more continuity, and he retroactively added more canon to make things make more sense. And that was what we got with the Clone Wars. So they can essentially retcon whatever the fuck they want with any new added stories, added movies, added context in for the sequel trilogy and make the sequel trilogy better by doing that. They wanted to make a mini series set between episodes 8 and 9 to explain all of the somehow Palpatine returned. They did that. I'm willing to bet people would be a lot more forgiving of episode 9 once they had that show to add the context. So I fully believe Filoni's going to do things like that. But what he did stop was a lot of the Kathleen Kennedy, let's change a bunch of things by adding new things that have nothing to do with other things. Like, he stopped a lot of those projects. So the Solo Rey film, that's probably going to be incorporated into the new trilogy.
As it should be. She should be part of the makeup of
Yeah.
our other characters. And it's time to now see what happened to Finn and Poe and put them on a new adventure and find out what new evil is percolating in the universe that they need to confront.
Right. And so it definitely sounds like what was happening was that they were going to do almost like a solo Star Wars story version of Rey and Friends. And it would have made no sense. And people were like, where the fuck does this movie fit in the canon? And then now he's like, no, we're going to make like episodes 10, 11, and 12. And there's going to be a story. And we're going to have one writer who crafts the whole story. So it's not going to be a mess. And that is, I'm fine with them taking another couple of years to give us a better trilogy. Because just like how it was when the sequels came out, everyone started forgiving the prequels. I think when you give enough time, the sequel trilogy will start to resonate better with people. And if you add enough shows to retcon and add more context, people will be a lot more forgiving. Give us a show about the Battle of Jakku that explains why Rey is digging through Star Destroyers. Give us a show explaining the cloning nature of the Emperor and his quiet return and how he the fall of the Jedi Temple. Give us that show. Give us all that stuff. And give us all the context that we were missing so that people can watch 7, 8, and 9 and truly appreciate the stories that are being shown and not being mad at the plot holes that exist because of poor planning.
Yeah,
Fill the plot holes. Fill the plot holes with shows.
Especially 9. 9 just feels like it's on 1.5 speed.
And it would have been worse because J.J. Abrams filmed a 4.5 hour long film and had to cut it down. So we have a lot of stuff that was cut out that probably would have answered things.
It's wild that, especially in a world of streaming where Disney really is kind of, I feel like, the slowest for content to go on to. It's steady, really, but it feels a little bit less than everybody else. Why not let him put a 4-hour version on there? If you're talking about screen time, people will just turn it on.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that Disney is not doing that. I saw something funny the other day. So you and I, when we were kids, what was our favorite Christmas movie, Michael? Do you remember this? Because it shouldn't take long.
A Christmas Story.
No, the Muppet Christmas Carols. That's what I was referring to. We watched that one religiously at
Taylor had a VHS. Yeah, that was yeah.
Right? And that movie was fantastic. I still love that film. There was a deleted scene that they released separately on VHS that had like a 3-minute long version of the film that had this song between Michael Caine and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Amazing song, not in the theatrical cut. Disney, for some stupid reason, on Disney Plus, if you go onto the Muppet Christmas Carol, they have the theatrical version as the main version. And if you go to extras, there's the extended version, somewhere listed in the bowels of the extras.
That's a great pro tip.
Why is this not on the main thing? Like they put all this cool stuff on the sub menus that people don't look through. Disney just doesn't know how to properly operate a streaming service. So I don't know. They're so weird. But so earlier this week, I mean, we're going to go a little bit over because we're now doing this on the end of the week and instead of the beginning of the week, so we got a little bit more to talk about.
Okay.
Earlier this week, there's been some rumors and news that Michael Flanagan is making the horror expert from Netflix, the guy who makes like Dr. Sleep and the Haunting of Hill House, all the fun stuff that you're like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. The pitch story that he had for the Clayface solo film, Daniel RPK has said that it's moving forward and it's probably going to start filming next year. Now people are wondering if this solo Clayface thing is something tied to the Secret Six, the DCU, or if it's going to be more like the Joker in its own entity. So we have a lot of questions. I hope it's part of the DCU, and I hope it's more contextual stuff for the Secret Six. We also found out that along with the Alan Tudyk Everything Mad, there is some movement. Sgt Rock is getting a film, and Sgt Rock was actually a really cool kind of a gritty soldier character, and a lot of the comics that he is known for is
the one that fights with the dinosaurs in the other universe. He just popped up in like 3 DC animated things. He's been
Sgt Rock is known for him being a sergeant of a team that was typically like the Losers and stuff like that. Like he's associated with the Losers or those things. He is also known from like the Army of War comics and stuff like that, Army at War and stuff. But his most recent stuff was Sgt Rock versus the Army of the Dead, and it was like straight up just Sgt Rock fighting zombies, and it was amazing.
Great.
The news is that Sgt Rock is moving forward with a solo film. It's getting writers, directors, all this stuff that's moving forward. And funny enough, Daniel Craig is Sergeant Rock. And
Wow.
as I put in the title card, I already can see it. I'm down for it.
It's
like, that sounds amazing.
He gets to be an over-the-top army character that makes sense. That
he gets to basically play the character he played in Defiance, but as like a real military guy.
Right.
And not Jewish and not British. He is
Sure.
going to be like an American World War II soldier who's going to be dirty, crass. He's going to fight zombies and monsters, and it's going to be wonderful. This came out. Fans were like, yay, Daniel Craig, DC. And then other fans were like, stop wasting our time with non-Superman and Batman projects. And in my argument, just because this is being talked about doesn't mean it's going to happen. James Gunn has already said that unless the script is completed and perfect, they don't greenlight anything. Pre-production does not mean current production. It just means that they're working on it, and it's a possibility. He did confirm that things like Swamp Thing and The Brave and the Bold are officially moving forward because they're far enough along to be real, and they're going to happen. We don't have a lot of other information other than that, but this project could be one of those outlier projects that just exists and could be fun, and it's there. And if they want to bring Sergeant Rock into the Suicide Squad or the Losers or Creature Commandos going forward, they then have that option. But these kind of movies don't cost a lot of money to make. I mean, how much did Defiance cost? And that was a movie that he did with...
I also just think that the problem with the superhero genre is that everyone's now in capes and robot suits.
Yeah.
Like, let's take something that's in this larger world, but that feels very cinematic with tanks and mortars and bombs and mud. Like, that's, yeah.
People really responded to the first Wonder Woman film because it was a Wonder Woman film.
And the first Captain America movie. Because Captain America 1 and 2 are drastically different genres of movies.
Yeah, and so, I mean, Defiance, that movie where Daniel Craig plays an older Jewish brother of a family who was basically saying, Nazis are trying to kill us, let's fight back. That movie only cost like $30 million, $40 million to make. If you just take that kind of a movie, that kind of a budget, that kind of direction, and then maybe just say, here's zombies, 50 million tops. If you do it all practical, and it's DC, it's cheap. It's not $200 million on Joker 2. It's more like the money that you spend on Joker 1 with a bigger option for payout. Sure. So these things are fine as long as the world of producing does its thing. Because the studios, people tend to think that why aren't you making Batman? Why aren't you making Superman? Why aren't you doing this? If you say, I'm going to make this movie and we're going to have these 5 people do producing it, these things are going to be how it's going to go. The finances are not actually from the studio itself. The finances would be from the producers that come on and help finance this film. And maybe DC's hand in this actual film would be like $10-15 million tops. The other financiers come in, and then it's a DC Studios distribution. It could be like that. Or even just like with Superman, the documentary about Christopher Reeve, the project was done. They just bought the distribution rights and then put it out as the part of their label. So we don't know how the finance deal is. So people complaining that these kind of projects exist don't actually know how the projects are made at the studios and how producing and funding and all that stuff actually works.
I feel like the zombie movie is very doable in that budget, where if we go to dinosaurs or like a King Kong like story, we're talking maybe a little bit more money. And maybe you do the first movie as a proof of concept to then lead them to Dino World. And we get to see army guys versus a couple of amazing T-Rexes.
So this is my thought. You have Sergeant Rock as its individual movie where you get Sergeant Rock and his ragtag team of World War II soldiers fighting some strange, weird shit. The movie ends with them finding this lone island off in the Pacific. There's dinosaurs on it. That's where the movie ends. The big rumor about the DCU being part of the New Frontier canon and wanting to move forward with the idea of the center and all that stuff, you start a movie like that with Sergeant Rock and his team of losers on the dinosaur island where the center lives. And that's how you start that thing. So you use this as a lead-in to explain the next chapter of the bigger story.
Sure. And then
so,
you have
I understand
Peacemaker. you have Peacemaker. He deals with a little office of this, and then we see the Suicide Squad. They deal with a piece of this, and then it culminates with all of them having to deal with it.
Right, and then you culminate with a DC Justice League New Frontier concept, and that is the Justice League and every hero, every villain, all that stuff fighting this alien entity that has existed on Earth since forever and is now trying to kill humans.
That story sounds real attractive for Margot Robbie to come back and get to change from a heel to a baby face, kind of. You know what I mean?
They can definitely do a lot, and with the actor, some actors coming back, some actors changing the looks. We already know that a lot of Peacemaker is going to look very similar, but we have seen some changes already that exist with some of the costumes. We already know Peacemaker is getting a new suit that's going to look very different than the other one. And then some of the background behind the scenes stuff is also revealed what his dad and brother looked like in very different costumes. So
I wonder if we're
going to have some shakeups in the canon.
I also wonder if they're changing his costume because just John Cena is getting older. And if you kind of put him in something
different,
a bigger army jacket or something, he can wear this role another 10 years. I mean, he's in his 50s now. Maybe. So you keep it going and maybe he doesn't have to juice so hard.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I mean, along with that, we also, the Flanagan Clayface project could be part of this villain side of things and just introducing more fantastical elements to this universe as they move forward. But again, everyone who's outraged, everyone who's upset, everyone who's like, oh, how dare this exist? A lot of the complaints I've seen with the Alan Tudyk doing the voice of Clayface and Creature Commandos, people were pissed about that because he's also doing the voice of Dr. Phosphorus in Creature Commandos. And then people were arguing that just like Sean Gunn, who is doing the voice of Weasel and playing Max Lord and playing a few, because the voice actor is doing a couple things and then he's doing a different role in live action, people are accusing of like nepotism and all that shit. And they're doing the same thing with Alan Tudyk because he's an established actor that does a lot of voices. Because he's being used for more than one voice, people are pissed. So,
but he is that good. He is that good. He's been that guy for a long time. I want him doing the voices of those. I want him doing character voices.
I'm fine with it because it makes sense that they would go that route. And a lot of questions are now Alan Tudyk is doing a voice in Superman or doing a role in Superman. And my honest opinion, I think he's going to be the voice of Superman's robot at the Fortress of Solitude, like what, Helix or something, like the floating robot that curates his house while he's gone.
Sure.
That's my opinion is what he's going to do. Like Superman's going to show up and be like, how do I deal with this? And then the robot's going to fly in and be like, let's look at the archives. And then that's all it's going to be. Like that's the total amount of the voice work.
It's wild that this is a weird hill that people want to die on.
Well, people die on weird hills all the time in the realm of nerd and internet. So I'm assuming that people are being outraged before they see the full context, and I think the final product is going to speak for itself.
Very cool.
So before we wrap, I do want to say that there's a lot of rumors about when the Superman trailer is dropping.
It's coming Christmas time. We're going to see it whenever the Christmas movies are. We're going to have a teaser trailer.
He had a handful of interviews recently, and Collider has exclusively reported that it's coming in December. And to their understanding, it's being attached to the Mufasa film that's coming out mid-December.
Great. We'll see. I mean,
that may or may not be real.
People want to see Mufasa. Is that an IP?
I don't know. It's a weird. The movie looks weird. I don't know if I'm even going to give it the time of day because I didn't like the live action Lion King because I thought they changed too much and it was very wooden.
Yeah, it was very. Double down on all those. That's I
didn't love it. Didn't love it. Don't want to see another one. Spent 2 hours of my life watching really realistic cartoon lions.
Right.
Draw out a story that could have been told in 90 minutes. Like if they would have added more to it and made it better, it'd been one thing. But
no, they didn't add anything. They just did scenes over. They did them worse.
Yeah, they did the scene over and added a few more lines, and it was like, wow, this scene was better before.
You should have just copied the other movie page for literally frame for frame, and they changed.
Yeah, and they don't need to add that random Beyonce song that has nothing to do with anyone singing. It's just like, oh, okay, so they're talking about.
Yeah, Beyonce just likes to sing.
Okay, cool. So I was, whatever. But The rumors that it's being attached to that movie, I don't think it is, but we'll see what happens. Either way, it sounds like within the next 30 days we'll have this trailer, and the internet's probably going to shut its mouth about how much they hate Superman from James Gunn when they see this thing.
Can't wait to see it.
So I, for one, love the idea, but I can't. I mean, I'm a huge fan of things, and I choose not to shit on something until it's out. That's just how I am. Like, for years, I've been dragging you to terrible movies because I'm like, I don't trust the negative hype. Let's see this thing, and then we've enjoyed the movies. Like, they've been like, okay, this is fine. I just don't listen to the nonsense that people dump on things. Like, if it's a character that I like and there's a new interpretation, let's go check it out. I did that with the Joker too. Loved it. I know the internet didn't like it, but I also thought it was a good extension of the first one and didn't change anything about the first one. I think the people just didn't like it because they were expecting Arthur Fleck to be the comic book Joker now. And the movie was basically Arthur Fleck saying, I have made a monster. I am now accountable for the monster I've made, and I'm not that monster. So people were mad that that movie was exactly what this first one was saying, just doubling down on it. I don't know, but I'm very curious to see what goes forward next. But let's take it home, Michael.
Taking us home like ET phone home. If you want to take us and support our homes, head on over to the patreon.com/theculturednerd. If you have your devices, please like, comment, subscribe, feed that algorithm, let them know. Question of the week. We just had an amazing Penguin show. We're talking about a Clayface show. What other of Batman's rogue of villain, his council of villains, which one would you want to see in another? Yeah, that's the word. Which one of them do you want to see in a television show? Poison Ivy show? Maybe a Catwoman show, her and hanging out with her hangman sister? Let us know in the comments down below. Taylor Murphy's been your host. I'm Michael Santel, your co-host. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see all you kids and cats next time.
And I do want to also say, like, we should probably clarify that if you want a show or a movie from one of the things, please specify what canon you want it in, because I, for one, don't want to see a realistic Matt Reeves canon of Clayface, because it doesn't make any sense if it's just a dude with makeup, because that's the chameleon from the comics, not Clayface. But if you want to say, let's make a DCU Clayface that comes off of Creature Commandos, where he's literally a giant gray blob that turns into everything, yeah. Answer that in the comments. I would love to hear everyone's thoughts, because DC is now a giant playground with some options. So let's go forward with those options. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.